Hey everybody, Some Gadget Guy here, somegadgetguy.com with a quick wrap-up review. I've been using the Samsung ATIV S Neo on AT&T for a couple months now, and I just wanted to share my findings, report back to you guys what my experiences have been using Samsung's Windows Phone and how it compares to some of the other Windows phones that we've reviewed, namely Nokia devices, as Nokia has kind of become synonymous with Windows Phone. So I really wanted to give this phone a fair shake, and I already did a first impressions video just going through all of the hardware. This is very much a Galaxy S3 running Windows Phone, and on first impressions, that's actually a really nice thing. The Galaxy S3 was a formative phone, so especially considering Windows Phone's lower power requirements, you would think that that would be peanut butter jelly time. You know, excellent hardware with the Galaxy S3 paired with a lower powered operating system should be really nice. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case. And in my experiences using the ATIV S Neo, it just doesn't really feel like a well-polished presentation of what Samsung could do utilizing Microsoft software. One of the first things that I can point to right away is the slightly larger screen on the diagonal than what you would find on a Lumia 925 or a Lumia 1020. And immediately, side by side with these two devices, the ATIV S Neo definitely has the larger screen. The 4.8-inch screen on the ATIV is bigger than the 4.5-inch screen on the Lumia 1020. But this is another one of those interesting battles between these two companies where Nokia has gone back to AMOLED displays, and I love the contrast ratio on an AMOLED display, whereas the ATIV S Neo, Samsung opted for an LCD panel. So Samsung, the company most responsible for bringing AMOLED displays to the market, has saddled their premier Windows Phone device with an LCD, and that's kind of a disappointment because I love Samsung AMOLED displays, and especially when you see just the color saturation and how much colors pop and the contrast ratio on a Nokia device, you instantly sort of veer over to the Nokia side, even though you're going to be dealing with the 4.5-inch display in a phone which is almost the same dimensions. And at this generation of Windows Phone, 720p is the diagonal. So 720p on a 4.5-inch screen, I think actually looks a little bit better than 720p on a 4.8-inch display, as the pixel pitch is just a little bit finer on the Nokia. And even down to little things which you wouldn't think would be as big a deal. I don't know if this is going to really show well on video, but everything about the UI on the ATIV S Neo feels just a little laggy or just a little stuttery. So side transitions feel like they've got a little hitch to them. Scrolling doesn't feel quite as smooth, and especially when you sort of run down, you can say there's like this annoying little buzz at the ends of gestures, which just is not very pleasant, but is something that you completely don't have on the Nokia device. Everything just is smooth as butter. And that really shouldn't be. It's the same processor, but it really speaks to a culture, I think, at Samsung where the ATIV S Neo isn't necessarily a device that they put a lot of effort behind. And one of the big problems with going back to traditional stock, I just slapped it on without a second thought, Windows Phone, is this camera interface. You know, you guys, you know how I love doing really in-depth camera reviews, especially comparing like video performance across all of these different phones that I get a chance to play with. I was not able to finish a video review using the stock camera interface anymore, especially after how great the I can't even tap the screen, especially after how great the experience was on the Lumia 920, 925, and Lumia 1020. And one of the big problems is simply this inability to focus on anything. If something gets too close, it has a really hard time focusing on that. I'm gonna try and move out, and it'll eventually close focus. But see, it's not even close focusing. I'm a couple inches now out away from the camera, and it refuses to close focus. Now, on any other phone, that would mean we'll tap the screen and it'll close focus. But on the stock Windows Phone camera app, you tap the screen, if it even registers my tap, and it starts recording video. Okay, well now that it's recording video, if I tap the screen, maybe it'll focus on what I want it to focus on. Nope, tap the screen again, and the video's over. And so there were so many situations in which I was trying to take video of something across the street, like the traffic scenes that I like to shoot. Wouldn't decide on what to focus on. Then I would try and take a macro video of a flower, get right up on top of it, close. You would think, oh, it's occupying like the whole range of the camera sensor. So it'll focus on that. But no, it wouldn't decide to focus on that. It would just sort of pulse back and forth away from it. And that's super frustrating. And no other camera on a phone works like that anymore. We've all sort of agreed that camera apps shouldn't work this way. And so Samsung has their own photo app, which utilizes the camera. It can't be set as the default. And this works a little bit better for tapping on the screen and focusing on what you want to focus on. But it's still a very clumsy experience. It doesn't ever quite give you the output that you hope it would, but it's at least a little bit better than the Windows Phone experience. Unfortunately, you can't shoot video from this interface. It's only for stills. Now, in here, we also have some of Samsung's other options for things like HDR and panorama. So this does improve the experience, but it's still problematic as, it doesn't set as the default. And that's just a really frustrating experience to have when so many other phones and Samsung themselves have done photos and videos on smartphones so much better than this. About the only thing I can say about the ATIV S Neo, which keeps it competitive with other phones, is at least the phone radio and phone hardware on this device is competitive. Data rates on AT&T's network were phenomenal. I mean, it didn't have any problems getting online or uploading things to SkyDrive. All of that was smooth. Calls sounded loud and clear. No one complained about the call quality when I was talking on the ATIV S Neo. And I suppose the only other compliment I can maybe bestow on this phone is the fact that it's one of the few Windows phones with expandable storage. And that's still unfortunate, especially after the updates that we've seen that Microsoft has provided for the OS. Let me see if I can pull this backplate off. That I would hope more manufacturers would get on board, providing us micro SD card slots so that we can upgrade the amount of storage on the device. It's nice, but I still don't think that's enough to outweigh a decent Windows phone with at least 16 or some of the 32 gigabyte Nokia models that you can maybe pick up. The other thing too, we did a speaker test, and the speaker on the ATIV S Neo is decent. You can see it's actually a pretty big speaker. It's about the size of my thumbnail there. And that's great. You've got a loud phone that you can pack more storage on, but a lot of those core features that we like to use our smartphones for just feel lacking compared to many of the Nokia competitors that this phone is going up against. I really don't like giving negative reviews, giving negative recaps. I kind of feel that for most, especially premier devices, that there's an audience out there who would be interested in a smartphone or a tablet, and maybe it's just a little bit more niche than some of the other devices out there. But I'm struggling to come up with who this phone is really going to appeal to. But unfortunately, what we're left with is a token, unfinished effort on Samsung's behalf here. And especially with recent price drops on phones like the Lumia 1020, it gets harder and harder to find who might be in the market for a Samsung branded Windows phone. And I really don't want to leave a review off like that. I always hope to share more of my experiences using these devices so that you guys can make better and more informed purchasing decisions on what you're going to spend money on. I mean, buying a smartphone is a really decent chunk of change to be throwing at something. My mind hasn't been changed. It still stands that I think Nokia is the only game in town. So folks, I hate leaving off on such a bummer, but that's really what my experiences have been using this phone. As always, folks, thanks so much for sharing, for leaving comments on my videos, participating with my videos, subscribing to my channel. I've always appreciated the traffic, and I will catch you all on the next review.